know. It's really, I mean, I think it's a few things. I think like when I was really young, I just was always obsessed with business. So my dad used to tell me that when I was like, I don't know, when I was like 8, I used to tell him that I was really jealous that he had a mobile phone and that he was receiving all these emails on his mobile phone. And he was always like to me, dude, emails suck. Like once you're older and you start getting emails, you are not going to want to receive them. And I was like, no, dad, I love this idea. So I think I just, I just always really like the idea of business. And I think marketing is a big business driver in a lot of organizations today. So I think that's like one of the reasons why I really enjoyed it. And then I also just think, today I love more of the data side of the house when it comes to marketing, but I just love the creative components of marketing too. So I think when I was younger, and I was seeing big ad campaigns and just big creative campaigns, like I got excited by that and excited by the idea of like connecting with people through content. To develop over the years, I mean, I think so. I love learning, and I'm obsessed with getting into the numbers and working out how I can improve something. So I think just like having an always learning mindset is really important in fast growth companies. I think the other big thing is that like, it's pretty clear that I've been really lucky. I've been lucky to work for some really amazing companies, and I'm lucky that they've all gone really, really well. I think that to be honest is like in large part due to luck. But I also think at the same time, like to be a part of those kinds of companies that are changing and growing every year, my marketing team that I was on looked completely different. And so I don't think there's any way to kind of grow really quickly with your companies and move from company to company as they grow, and as they drive impact, if you're not kind of really adaptive as a person. Because if you don't like change, then you would hate having my career path. Because, even like staying at a company like HubSpot for 3 years, like that felt like 3 different companies each of those years in a really good way, but just very different because we were growing as a company so quickly. And I can say the exact same for ExactTarget and Salesforce and G2. So I think being able to adapt really quickly and always being willing to learn and learn new things, I think is key. So I joined G2 around a little under 2 years ago. And when I joined, there was about 5 people on the marketing team. And so the challenges that I faced then were quite different than what I'm facing now. But back then it was, really just about building a team because the company hadn't really put as much investment into marketing. And so, if I kind of like look back to where we were and to where we are now, I think there's almost 70 people in our marketing team. So from 5 people to 70 in a year and a half, 2 years has been crazy growth. And that was, we needed to do that because we have kind of 3 really big projects that we're working on. We were working on when I started and we're still working on. And the first is around building traffic to our site because we're a marketplace. We have sellers like software companies like Freshworks, like HubSpot, like Salesforce that are on G2. And then we have millions of buyers coming to G2 every month. And so when I joined, I think there was about 1 million buyers coming to the site every month. And now we have maybe 3+ million to 4 million coming every month. So, growing traffic has been really, really important. The second kind of big thing that I've been focused on is building a demand gen machine and funnel for our sales team. So that's much more your traditional B2B marketing. So, we run events, we do digital advertising, we create content. And then the third and kind of final big priority for me over the last 2 years and still today is looking at how we build a brand that businesses all around the world know and love. Because I think we've got really good cut through and visibility and awareness in the software landscape. Most tech companies know about G2. They're on G2. They're generating reviews on G2. We have almost 1 million reviews on the site. But I think for buyers, the 3 million plus buyers that come to our site every month, the more of them that we can get to the site, the more of them that we can create an amazing experience. It's better than they've ever experienced before when it comes to buying software. That's really kind of like the focus now. So they're sort of like the 3 big things that I have been working on, and I guess I'm still working on and probably will always be working on, to be honest. The most important thing where so many people go wrong is once they've selected their content topics of what they're writing about, that's at that point in time, like step one is where most people have already made the biggest mistake. And I think why that happens is that too often they take kind of ideas from their company or their colleagues or themselves, and they don't validate. They don't go to free tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush or other SEO keyword research tools to look at like, okay, I think this is a cool topic that relates to my company that will drive traffic. Do people search for this thing? And so we have very much like an SEO driven content approach whereby our SEO team identifies what are the keywords that we want to rank for. And they set kind of the direction there. And then we loop in the writer who then does all the research and creates amazing content that's, beautiful, that has multimedia, that has interactivity. And then they work with our link building team to generate links for the content. But I mean, you can't really optimize something for something that it isn't. And so optimization is only important if, in my mind, you've created content around the right topic in the first place. And I think that's where most people go wrong. Yeah, sure. So it kind of like comes back to content marketing ultimately. And I wrote a pretty long blog post about this and kind of screenshotted all the details and how I got there. But long story short, it was, working with the Hubspot Sydney team, which I was running a couple of years back. And, we noticed that our leads as a company were starting to kind of like slow down. And we basically did a ton of research into working out what were the different content categories that we had published enough content whereby we were ranking in all of the top positions in Google for them. And then where were their opportunities? And long story short, we've created this tool for $6,000 with an agency in Sydney. It was an email signature generator, which really has nothing to do with HubSpot's core business. But I think the big insight that we had as a team and that I kind of still drive with my teams at G2 today is you need to think about stuff that will attract your buyer persona, regardless of whether it has anything to do with what it is that you sell as a company. Because if you can pull them in, they're the right people, you can get their contact information, you can nurture them, and then you can sell to them later. Whereas most companies kind of think about like creating content or free tools only around things that their product or product teams can sell. And I think that's an okay strategy, but if you want to kind of increase the top of your funnel and generate more revenue, you need to think broader than that. And so while email signatures have really nothing to do all that much with like marketers or salespeople, everyone in business has an email signature. So we could validate really quickly that, hey, there's 50,000 plus people searching for email signature generator, etc. every month. If we can create a free tool that's better than all of the other paid tools out there, people will use ours instead of the paid tools. And then kind of lo and behold, a few months after we'd created that, we were generating something like 50 or 70,000 leads a month organically through this tool, which then obviously those folks moved down the funnel into revenue. So I think like my big lesson for folks that are interested in doing that sort of a thing is, like content marketing, creating content, adding value and helping buyers that might be looking for things in relation to your product and elsewhere is a good thing. You should be doing it. But once you start to build that blog and your content marketing on your website, I think starting to diversify and think about free tools is a really interesting way to start to generate more leads and more revenue. That's a good question. I mean, there's been a few different ones. I don't know, something that's a little bit different, I guess, is when I was at Salesforce and Exact Target, a campaign that I was really proud of that we ran was we ran this Future of Marketing tour all around Asia Pacific when I was at Salesforce and Exact Target. And basically we kicked it off with this C-level CMO kind of event beforehand. And we basically, long story short, took 50 CMOs skydiving because we were launching this new cloud marketing platform. This was, a long time ago, back when kind of cloud and marketing was still new. So we wanted to take CMOs to the cloud. And so naturally, the legal team that I was working with wouldn't approve us actually throwing CMOs out of planes, but they did approve us to do indoor skydiving. And so we took these CMOs to this indoor skydiving place in Sydney. About half of the CMOs were customers and about half of them were prospects. So it was a really nice, it was very much like an enterprise B2B event, but it was about connecting our sales leaders with these prospects and customers. So for the customers, it was about strengthening the relationships that we have with them. And they were spending millions each per year with us at the time. And then with the prospects, it was about helping get our customers to sell the value of our platform to these prospects. So there was a really tangible value, and we drove a lot of revenue from the event itself in terms of creating net new sales opportunities out of it, and then helping increase renewals of customers that attended. But I think what I really liked about it was we had a video crew actually come and record the day and turn it into this video, which is on YouTube. But we showed this video at this Future of Marketing tour that we did all around Asia Pacific. So we ran events in Sydney, in Singapore, in Melbourne, Brisbane, everywhere. And we showed this video of all of our customers doing skydiving and talking about why they loved ExactTarget and Salesforce. And that then helped us influence and drive a lot more business at these events, because people could see really famous CMOs speaking about how much they loved our tools and being a part of the community that we had created. And so that was a campaign I guess I was really quite proud of. I mean, there's the one that kind of comes to mind, and I think that we still executed on it really well as a campaign, but I just don't think our product was right. It was when I was working at Microsoft, and this is now a long time ago. This was back when Microsoft was still number one, but Apple was starting to kind of rise in the consumer space. And we ran a campaign with universities around Australia where we would basically we would rent a room on campus, and we would kind of turn it into this this Microsoft lounge where they could test the new Surface Pros and tablets and stuff like that. And it was meant to be a way to kind of on campus start to connect with students basically and show them that Microsoft still had cool tools. And I think the execution of that was really, really good. But it was just kind of unfortunate at that time. Apple were just crushing it with the consumer student persona, and they had a lot more creative options of products. And so I think marketing sometimes is only as good as the products that it's promoting, in my mind. And so, I think this was a good experience that we provided for people at universities, but I don't think it was able to drive the amount of revenue that we intended it to drive, because Apple were just doing so well, and we couldn't beat them. I mean, I think mental health is something that everyone kind of knows about, but everyone doesn't really think about it enough, right? We think so much about our physical health, but we don't think enough about our mental health, I think, and we don't oftentimes think of it as the same thing. So for example, yesterday I had a sick day, and it was a mental health day off work. And it's, typically in the past I probably would have felt like I couldn't have that, but now I kind of view my mental health as important as my physical health. And so if I don't feel great mentally, then, and I can't do my best work, then I'll take the day off. Anyway, the reason why I kind of share that example was just that I think that there's a lot of people that feel similarly to how I used to feel, and that they didn't feel like they could talk about their own mental health. They probably didn't even think about it. They just tried to avoid it. And so I don't know, it's something that, I've had my own challenges with, and I kind of want to share that publicly with people and talk about that so that they feel like they too can do the same. But I think for me, some mental health and seeing therapists and all that is something that's kind of very normal for me, because, my wife and I met studying psychology at university. I was studying to major in psychology, and she then became a doctor of psychology. So my wife's a clinical psychologist. So, a lot of our friends are psychologists and live in this world. So they all have therapists. They all don't view it as a weird thing. So I think that kind of helped me see it as a very normal thing to do myself as to see a therapist and then to talk about it. Yeah. I mean, I think everyone could benefit really from having a therapist, because it's oftentimes I think it's when you're kind of pushed to your limits and when things are tough, that's when some of the kind of things that may not have been worked through from childhood come through, right? Like oftentimes we can manage ourselves pretty well, but when work gets too stressful or money things get stressful or things add up, then it kind of breaks us down sometimes to our like kind of more juvenile selves. So yeah, I mean, I think also I joined a non-for-profit called Bring Change to Mind that was founded and is still led by Glenn Close, the actress and activist, and it's all completely focused on reducing the stigma around mental health, specifically in the US at this point. So yeah, something I'm really passionate about, and I've seen a lot of benefits from myself, and so like I love talking about it with people and sharing kind of some of the tips and tricks that I've learned in my journey to kind of better manage my own mental health. I don't know. I think for me, my approach with my team, and I'd love to, and I'd be curious to hear what they think, but I just try and be really authentic with them, and tell them how I'm feeling. And if I'm a bit snappy in a meeting because I'm annoyed about something, I'll oftentimes afterwards ping them a note and say, hey, apologies if I'm like a little bit more annoyable or irritable today, like this is why ... or I don't know, I just think like today in leadership, you don't have to be fake, you don't have to create a wall between yourself and people. You can be really authentic and tell people how you feel, and I think a lot of leaders are afraid of that, like when they're on a panel or they're speaking in front of their teams, they kind of try and project kind of everything they know, everything's okay, everything's good. And, in an ideal world, that's great. But I think at the same time, it's okay to not know everything and to be able to say, hey, this is what I think. I'm not sure if this is right, but I'm working through it. I would love your feedback. Let me know. So, yeah, I don't know. In a leadership perspective, I try and be really authentic with my team, but I think I really focus on hiring great people, because if you hire really great people, then you just need to get out of their way and they do great work. So I think that's like my biggest tip to leadership is hire great people around you to support you that kind of complement your skills. And if you do that right, that is like half of the challenge, I think, of leadership. You just need to be really relentless when you're hiring, like ask lots of questions. If something feels off with a candidate, tell them to their face. Like I oftentimes will be meeting someone and I'll be 10 minutes into an interview and I'll just stop the interview and I'll say, hey, I just want to let you know that right now I'm not really feeling like you're the right fit for this job. And this is why ... Let me know if I'm reading things incorrectly or if there's something going on that I'm not aware of. And, that's helped me work out, if the person definitely isn't right, because they might then get defensive. Or on the flip side, it's helped me work out when I've misread something and then I've realized that actually someone's really great and they really want the job. There's something going on in their life outside of this meeting, or they're nervous to chat with you because you're the CMO. It's like a lot of other things it can be. But I just think with interviewing, you've got to be really relentless and be really open and honest with the candidates and just kind of always keep digging to the bottom of what it is that they're doing to better understand them and the right fit. But I think the other part of it is just once you've interviewed a lot of people, like I think I've interviewed probably thousands of people at this point in time in my career, you can just kind of read it really quickly. You don't need to think that much about the interview. You know what to ask intuitively. And yeah, you just start to learn the right skills that you need to look for, and you can work out pretty quickly if people have them. I think it's like anything, the more experience you have, the better you are at it. I was kind of thinking about this recently, actually. And I think like if you're a marketer starting your career or your early stages in your career, I think the best thing you can do for your career is to try and work in a regional office of a multinational company. Or work for a small company that, whereby you can own more of marketing. But if I think of my own trajectory, I think what helped me get to becoming a CMO before I was 30 was that I had been I started as a marketing manager in region, in Asia, and was able to own all of marketing in my region. So while I wasn't a CMO, I still was able to run PR, social, email, digital, sales marketing, everything. And so it kind of exposed me to so much more than if I would have just worked for a big company in, say, the US, where I would have had a very specific role. So I would try and say to folks that are starting out, try and get a lot of breadth of experience and get to work in a lot of different areas with a lot of really great people. And you'll learn really quickly that way, I think. And that's not to say that it's not important to specialize and get good depth of kind of experience, but I think breadth and depth is something you need to kind of balance, because depth in one area can kind of pigeonhole you. And if you just want to stay in one area, then that's fine. But if you want to kind of become a CMO, you typically need to have breadth and depth, not just kind of depth.
Fresh marketer.